every athlete, every person, every human being has an opportunity. Some opportunities don't come when you want them. But if you're prepared, good opportunities can happen. Always be ready, because you never know when your number is gonna get called.
I'm not coming back.
EMI Apparel, encourage me, I'm young.
Calvin T. Mann, leading EMI, served over 20,000 youth through speaking, coaching, and mentoring. He has inspired us for years. Welcome to EMIYTV Podcast with your host, Calvin T. Mann, the Encourager.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the EMIYTV Put Your Family First podcast. It's been a long time. Dave snuck in the building to peek his head in, and Heather is here. And today,
no sneaking on my part?
No sneaking. No sneaking. Today, because Mana couldn't make it today for the conversation, we're going to talk about the unnecessary violence of fatherlessness. And we're going to get kind of deep because it's a conversation that needs to be had, and it hasn't been had. We talked about fatherhood in a number of ways. We talked about fatherhood value. We talked about fatherhood and boys. We talked about fatherhood and daughters. We've talked about fatherhood in a number of ways. But today, we're going to take this conversation a little deeper. And the reason why is because, I've been watching it for years. We've been watching violence for years. I think like 2 years ago, I did a whole research on how many murders in the black community across the country, and how many bodies you lose a year. Hundreds of thousands of bodies, right? Majority men. Those are all legacies gone. When you kill a boy, you kill a legacy. When you kill a man, you kill a legacy. And when you're killing legacies, your culture cannot grow. So it's time to have this conversation, and I'm not asking for permission. And I personally am up to here with all the other reasons other than the main reason. We've had these conversations, and before I get into it, Heather, hello.
Hi. Very ominous. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Dave, hey. How you doing?
Good, brother. Good to see y'all.
Good. So, where I want to take this, and of course, you all can interject, stop me when I'm wrong, and cut me off, hit the horn, beep beep beep, knock on the desk, whatever the case may be. But I think it's time to have the real conversation about violence, right? Of course, we can talk about violence in terms of guns, right? As I just said, we know when you kill a male, you kill a legacy, right? And we can talk about how damaging that is because when a male dies, it cuts off the legacy if he's not or has not been able to apply. So, for example, when I say that, I'm saying in terms of if we was talking about your dad, he was able to apply his legacy. Meaning you all were in your 50s when your father moved on. I, on the other hand, lost my dad. I was 24 when he died by aneurysm and moved on. Right? I was then 30, losing my mother to diabetes. Right? For those of you who've had your parents up into your 40s and 50s, you've had an advantage of parenting and life and legacy that those of you who lost your parents early or whose fathers, because we already know damage is often, and it happens often, to black children and children of incarcerated parents. There's a statistic that says that when a father's incarcerated, it's just as much damage to the telomeres as if he's deceased. So that statistic points out that if I remove the father, I cause damage to how long a person lives. And so what happens is when I remove that, there's a long list of damages that occur. And for the people that's out there or who will get this work, because this is going to be some work today, that when you understand how important and what the culture and the community is missing. Now, well, Calvin, you talk about fatherhood, you so and so and so. You are all, this society has been conditioned to the devaluing, and that includes the man, in the devaluing of fatherhood. I said at the CBC, and they were having a conversation, and on the stage were men and fathers, and they was talking about violence and voting and things like that. And the person comes on, he talked about all the symptoms, but never talked about the solution. When we talk racism and we talk about what racism has done, we create more victims. When we talk success of the culture, when we show a success of the culture, even through those tumultuous times, we create more leaders. It is an impactful conversation because leaders talk about former leaders because they have an understanding on what they read. Well, fatherhood is missing. And just like today, had another conversation with a guy who had access, peep this, who got access to his son, and the grandmother backdoored to get custody, and now has put the child in a situation to where we're lying and saying there's something wrong with the kid, and now getting a child support check and something else on the kid. Who reaps from that? When we lie to the very system that denies us that we get this money from this system for a lie, and we place it on this young boy. The boy is not even 5. So now he has a problem. We're gonna say that he has a problem just for a check. Mm-hmm. So now when I'm talking about how we are damaging the males, the young men, the boys, the system that is in place continuously creates these issues. So violence would be an outcome from this process. So when I talk about fathers, and I say this about fathers, and people, we kind of like to, dance around it, because even fathers, they're only concerned about the child support aspects, but they're not concerned about the time. Right? I'm comfortable. I can't be comfortable. I'm comfortable with my son being raised by somebody else. And I'm not involved in that. Right? I'm comfortable with my child, my daughter, being under the roof away from me, where I can't, I'm in tears. When I went through my process, there were nights, just me, I cried. I can cry right now. Because I know what was important for me to do was be in the home. Now, I was, I think the word should be, I was told, right, that it was something wrong with me because I was concerned about my kids. And, they're going to be okay. Well, I ain't too good on that they're going to be okay. Why? Because what happens is that environment has become acceptable to violence. There are 46,000 rape kits across this country. 86% of them have not been answered for black women. Not only do we have an issue because of the fatherlessness, everything I'm talking about comes from the fatherless home. See, I don't have to paint and say, I don't have to say these are the symptoms. I don't have to say, you know what? I got this gun. 4-year-old was in the house. Gun was on the table. 4-year-old shoots herself. Now, we know on the other side, 5-year-olds are hanging themselves for suicide. But the biggest component to suicide is the fatherless home. The biggest margin of gun violence, fatherless homes. The biggest margin of murder, fatherless homes. The biggest margin of dropouts, fatherless homes. The biggest margin of early childhood, young girls being pregnant, young boys, fatherless home. The biggest margin to incarceration, fatherless homes. The biggest margin to literacy, where I'm not reading, fatherless home. So also the biggest home, the most homes with the video games, fatherless homes. So when we talk about violence, excuses and reasons, or why did they shoot, or what happened, and why are we out here in the gangs, we turn away from the solution because we've been used to marginalizing the value, which then reconstructs my inner spirit drive as a man. When I cannot be a father to my children, it damages me, which then leads to it damaging my children. So my children are damaged because we buy into this narrative, quote unquote, I'm gonna be okay. Oh, he with his mama, he gonna be okay. So when we get into how much damage is being done, why are we so reactive? Why is there so much trauma? Most of the trauma comes from the fatherless home. Most of the medical issues comes from the fatherless homes. Most of the obesity and childhood obesity, we signed the juvenile diabetes with John Conyers, fatherless home. So now everybody's looking around and saying, where are the kids? Where are the boys? Where are the people? You done pushed them all the way in, and now you're trying to make that normal. And so when they come outside to play, everybody got guns. See? So when I'm saying fatherhood, and I bring it back to fatherhood because, my God, look what fatherhood covers. If it takes 12 mentors to equal one father in prevention, where none of your boys, our boys, right? In the 17, we don't know all where everybody's at. But we ain't got the call that was one of ours. We ain't seen on the news that was one of ours. I've not seen that. In fact, last night for my birthday, I'm at the beginning where I was 20 with Larry and Don. And Don sitting across from the table like, man, I owe you everything. Nobody was there. Like, he telling everybody in the backyard. Like, he real mentor. He been doing it when he didn't have to. He was 20 teaching us. Some things you do for the culture. But what I'm saying is now is mandated that our voices and our sound and our causes, right, is at stake, considerably at stake. And it's easy because of the fatherless home.
So, without having to drag up all of the reasons why there are fatherless homes, right?
Right.
When I think about this conversation, it brings me to the different types of fathers.
Okay.
And the generational impact of choices and decisions. And if we know that the telomeres affect how long that child lives, and say the father is a particular age, you know the impact of his father is upon him. And then he is a father, and the impact of his choices as a father is on his child, his son, right?
Okay.
What are the intervention strategies? And then what are the prevention strategies? It seems to me that the prevention strategies would start with the son.
Okay.
And the intervention strategies, in order to change the trajectory of that son, would also have to be engaged by that father and even perhaps that grandfather.
Okay.
So it's so layered, and there's so many reasons, and there's so many opportunities for redemption.
Okay.
To recognize that these are the solution is a lot of different moving parts.
Okay.
So as we start to engage in these moving parts, where are some of the opportunities? So for grandfathers, I think it's important that in our conversation around Put Your Family First, that we do talk about elders, and we do understand that their lessons, their choices, their decisions have an impact on, let's say, our generation. And then our experiences that we're learning from them, we're learning what not to do, because they have a lot more wisdom as an elder than they did as maybe an early or a young parent. There's a lot more wisdom there. So I see this. It reminds me of when you talked about the aerial view. When you look at the freeway, if you were to look at Southfield Freeway, for example, the aerial view, you have it going north, south, east, and west. And they're all layered. So some of them are ground level, some of them are on the bridge, some of them are in between, and then there are these side streets. So all of these different pathways to get you to where you need to be. When we talk about solutions, because I know that's what you're getting to, as we're talking about solutions, we have to keep in mind that there are all of these different paths. And how do we help make sure that you're on the path that you need to make the difference, to change the trajectory of what's happening with the boys, the kids.
So, Dave, you want to add before I go?
No, go ahead. Jack.
So, the one thing we have to do with the process, right? Because it is significantly layered, as you just said, right? You have to be simple. It has to be simple. The one thing that we have done that separates, in my opinion, even separates our mentoring program, right, from others, right, is you have to be simple, right? If you get, you have to be. If you get if you get too intricate, you got to remember the people that you're addressing can only handle one thing. They can't handle multiple things because the traumatic experience for you to even talk about fatherhood, right, brings up the fact that I didn't have them. So when I didn't have them, now I have all these layers on just that. I didn't have one. But then when you tap into, well, who was the mentor? Let me tap to see who was that mentor. Who did you listen to, right? So now you're able to tap over there and say, well, the mentor was saying this. And that's what I learned from. Okay, so let's go over here where the mentor had simplified it for you. Somebody else, it might be, they might need therapy. You want to simplify the process to bring them out. The biggest problem is no matter how we bring them out, as soon as I step out as a father, I am faced with all of this that says I am not valued. And it has to come from the father to step out with his chest stuck out, and he has to understand and fight for and defend and prepare himself for the value to protect. This is another form of protection, so I can protect my children, my legacy. I have to take on your doubts, your negativity about fatherhood. I have to take it on in order to protect and show mine how to bring forth the value.
Yeah, I think you said simplicity is a key word. In the military, we would say you crawl, you walk, and you run. And so I can understand the simplicity it relates to bringing something that people can identify with. Many times with mentors, you can identify with the mentor because you don't have the same expectation you have on the title of father. And in many cases, the father instantly has a role, a position, a status that comes with a great expectation. But if he's not in the home and then you're out in the community and you meet a mentor, you have to find someone to trust. Many times, even myself, when there was a Pop Winan, he was a mentor. He was the guy. We didn't know that because we didn't use those words back in the 60s. He was a coach, so we played on the Cherry Line Chiefs playing baseball. Well, he brought us in, Mr. Sanders, who taught us how to ride horses. We didn't know these men who were just in their 30s was teaching us these things because the father wasn't there. So we didn't have an expectation. He ain't my daddy. But what I did understand, he was bringing something to me that would help me to find my identity. Because when you're a kid, that's what you're looking for. Who are you? So they start off with something that is appealing to you, something that would draw a level of trust to you. Because nobody's going to talk to you if they don't trust you. So if I have a position as a father, and my father doesn't uphold his role by the idealism, what we've seen in Hollywood movies, this is what a father looks like. This is how he's supposed to conduct himself. And this is what a father that doesn't conduct himself looks like. So we're going to be struggling because, as you said earlier on, we're children. So we don't have that quote-unquote understanding. And if I don't have no role model in the house, I don't have nothing. But I do have this man that's doing something that appeals to me. And in that appealing, it draws you in. Now you're willing to listen. And that's the biggest problem in most cases because we like to say, well, nobody was there. That's not true. In all of our journey, there's always been somebody speaking to us.
Ram in the bush.
Yeah, and they bring something to the table that begins to develop a trusting rapport. And as we spend more time with these people, you develop a relationship. We can validate that with the program we had early this summer. When the little boy came in, he was crying all the time. But this wasn't this man's father. What was his name? Anthony? Was it Anthony? Anthony, that wasn't his father. But me, Calvin, were there. But he drew to Anthony because he developed
you're talking about Terrence.
Terrence, yeah, I'm sorry. A trusting relationship. And now, when he came in, he went straight to him. He sat on his lap. He ready to talk. He ready to interact. He stopped whining and crying. Again, the simplicity. He started with something that was easy. The development of trust, being able to feel. And you don't have to necessarily say you're talking about it, but that little kid, I don't know how old he was, 5 or 6, he developed a level of trust.
Right.
That's the beginning. That's the crawling phase. Then as he started coming in more, he got into the walking phase because now he's ready to do some things. And then he was ready to be open for us to walk because now when Terrence wasn't there, now he's ready to interact with us. So the biggest problem is developing that trust and rapport. But it's hard to do when you have an expectation that's up here, quote unquote, father, and father ain't there. So who am I looking for? You don't walk up to a mentor and say, "You my daddy." You don't call him your father. You see him for what he brings to the table, and you begin to develop that relationship.
And I understand that, and in my mind, as a mom, right, as a woman, and seeing all the different, and having been married 3 times, seeing the different roles, you understand. But as a mom, I feel like regardless of if anybody else is going to make a decision to stay or go, or to be this example or not, it's still my responsibility.
Only because you have it. When they decided that you was going to be the one, right? They put that determination on you only because you have it. And because you have that, right, it's exactly what you just said. You said, "I feel." We don't do that. We think completely opposite in developing our children.
Absolutely.
What you said was, in that process, you were saying, as a mom, it's because they said the system purposely said you. Because they knew this from the history would occur. When they was taking men away from their families during slavery, they knew the outcomes.
Absolutely.
When they were testing, DNA testing, they knew the outcomes. So in this process, when I interrupt the process, your process, our process for our child, it knows it's going to cause some damage, which then slows the brain, the heart, the body, the soul, the spirit. It is damaging. And you're left with what you just said.
So when we divorced, we had an agreement, right? And that part of the agreement has been intact, right? My expectation of what him as a father would be was his choice and his decision. Even though he did not have a father in his life, he had a grandfather, but his relationship with his grandfather was a different type of relationship. So he didn't have his skills, his fatherhood skills, and my expectations of his skills as a father. There were some differences and challenges there.
But you're using the same word, expectation. And I think innately, by DNA, by design, not just the systemic things that are set up through the course of time, there's always an innate connection. That's my child, that's your child. And as society sets up these rules and these standards or the idealisms that says this is how we parent, we find ourselves going in that direction. But if someone removes you from that and never gives you that foundation, never give you that information, you don't know how to give it. I used to deal with soldiers all the time. They said they hate their father. I said, why? So he didn't do this. I said, but your father couldn't give you what he didn't have. You just confirmed that.
Right.
If he didn't have it, he couldn't get it. But that doesn't mean it's not available. But that has to be something that's innate in the person. It has to be a part of the person's character, foundation that wants to do something to be a parent and a father.
That word right there. In order to change it, you have to want to change it. You have to want to do it. And where we come from multiple times is when we come from that mother-led home. We psychologically believe that the child is going to be okay because he's with his mom. And it's a factory of destructive behavior in that model.
Absolutely. So back to my aerial view. There has to be, if I'm heading north, because my situation and my circumstance is that I was raised by heavily raised in a female-oriented environment, right? So my mom, my grandmom, all of those women had an influence on me. I'm heading north. I have a son now, right? And I feel that certain things, or he's going to be, all I have to do is show up. So as long as I'm here, as long as I am, he can call me, I can call him, that's enough. And because you didn't have one for yourself, you don't really know. You're just trying to be present. I'm just trying to be present. So I'm heading north. So I have I need a different set of tools. I don't even know that I need to want to show them how to ride a bike, or show them how to make a meal, or show him how to speak to a woman and how to be respectful to your mom. I may not know that all of those things are on me to do, or that it has to be an intentional thing versus something that you just learn by growing up. So that's me as a man heading north in this situation. Wait a minute. There's another type of man that's heading south. He grew up with mom and dad, right? And he takes his role in manhood very seriously. She, however, has a strong personality, strong-willed, strong mind, independent, and is trying to interject her expectations of what her son's relationship should look like with the father, right? So he needs a whole nother set of tools to be able to navigate that situation, because force is not going to get it done. So he needs a whole nother set of tools. And then you have the brother that's headed west, who has multiple children outside of marriage. This is the pattern. This is what he knows. And his issue is, I don't want to be a dad to one person. Yeah, I got kids, but I'm not really involved. I'm not that kind of guy where I need to be holding hands with these kids and raising these kids. So that's a whole nother direction, right? Or do I have the father that's not present because he's incarcerated, right? He needs a whole nother set. Not that he doesn't care about his kids. He's in this circumstance, and he's not physically being raised with his kids, trying his best to stay connected. He need a whole nother set. This is what I'm talking about when I'm saying the multiple directions of where somebody goes. Then you have the ones that are on the service drive. He's still heading north, but he's not on the freeway. He's not taking the fast track. He's in this space, and these are the tools that he has. This is what he's trying to develop. He wants to be involved. He wants to be engaged. He's trying to do something. He's just not on the freeway. So I'm saying you have all of these men going in all different directions. There is not one solution. So how do we start to put in place some tools for the North or the South or the East or the West. These common areas that we're challenged with. And on top of that is the women. We need a different set of tools. If you've been in an abusive relationship, you need a whole nother set of tools. Because why would you want to have this man who's been abusing you in front of the children, now that it's becoming, and those children are growing up with that? That's a whole nother set of tools that mom needs. Because she's not going to trust that. Why would I allow you to be engaging in our kids and you beat me black and blue in front of them? So I'm going to protect them. You're not going to have time with that child. You don't have any self-control or respect and what you're teaching. And if I give them to you, what am I saying about how I'm raising my children? So that's a whole nother set of tools. These are all the different dynamics. Women are not just most are not just staying or trying to keep the children from the fathers when there are other dynamics in that situation. So that's a whole nother set of tools that we need to be able to overcome that as an obstacle. That's a whole nother level of trust. So I'm saying what I'm going back to is in the solution. Fatherhood definitely is at the center of the solution, but all of us need new information and new tools and have to make some real decisions. We have to decide we have to know what's at stake, and most people don't really understand what's at stake.
So
being pro fatherhood says that I'm forgiving, I'm building trust, I'm building respect. Like, it has a lot of things to do with how you proceed in bringing that family unit together, whether you're together for raising the child or whether you're together working as a unit on behalf of that child. You don't have to be together, but that's a lot of learning that has to take place. Undoing.
So everything you said is what I said when I said, as a father, a good father, he has to come out and fight for that position to make sure that he teaches his legacy, protect his legacy. In that process, we understand that those are all the circumstances. The bottom line is the violence, the unnecessary violence that comes from all of that. All of that, right? Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is that you have no character process in that environment. When I come out that environment, I'm taught womanizing. I'm automatically guaranteed, right, to womanize. This is what we deemed man. This was the conversation, right? Some in the church, you catch God and you go down to church and you know what I mean? Yeah, right? Because that's something that you got to have, and if you don't catch it, it'll go right by you. So you get it, you go through the process, and inside the church, it's supposed to be this family structure that is being taught, supposedly. Right, exactly. Right? Then when you cut on the television, right? The television is supposed to show you that. Right? Then when you cut on the movie is supposed to show you that, give you that, right? Remember I had the conversation when I told you Will Smith has played fatherhood roles more than any actor I've seen in my years of watching movies. Right?
Mm-hmm. He has played a lot, for sure.
He's played every fatherhood role there was in his movies. Will Smith. Bad Boys 3, the last one. He was the father of a boy who was incarcerated. And this boy, at the end of the movie, he had to let him go, gave him some stuff and told him, stay out the way, get out the way. so he wouldn't go back to prison because he was accused of something. Also in the movie, what's his name? Son. Martin's son, who had went to family household, went to the military. Will Smith had the son out and then got married. He had the son in the military while he was married. All right? Into the movie, both their sons were on a different path. But in their code was who they were. Right? Mm-hmm. We don't know the code of these men. You're not the father. These are things,
exactly,
right, that also creates violence. We celebrate, we'll say, work with me, Mo, we'll say women cheat better than men. Men are horrible at cheating. And we will have these discussions, which I was grateful for you yesterday, talking to the women about how to get a man. But the process creates this unnecessary violence that we're seeing today because I don't get enough fathering. I need the fathering, which makes broken men, bad men, service drive men, over the top of the freeway men, below the men. So we have to structure a standard for black fathers and family. We have to reconstruct. And it has to be a mandatory thing to the culture. It has to be. Mm-hmm. We have to be known for something other than this. The violence. If you pull a gun, I gotta kill you. Like, we have to be known for something other than that. And we were and can be, but we have to stop talking about what racism is doing versus what we should be doing and how we should see the value of the men that do achieve. When a man is a man and he's in a suit versus a man who might be on stage, we make sure he has more value versus the man that's in the suit that goes to work, come home, right? We celebrate the worst part that creates the damage, where we listen to the music, where it's in the Tubi movies. All these Tubi movies is nothing but deception and violence.
That's entertainment.
It's beyond entertainment.
But entertainment,
it's a tool for us we're a different type of people. Heather, you know this.
I'm saying what entertainment is and how it's designed. We were talking about the series earlier. It's designed to captivate you. That's what it does. Education and entertainment.
So
it holds the thought in the.
We can't get no more family shows.
It holds the thought in the mind.
We can't get no more family shows then. We can't get a happy ending, a story. We can't get a story of the father and the father getting custody and bringing the family together at the end of the movie. We can't get that.
But all of Hollywood's movies, I don't care what movie it is, it's designed to send a message. Most of the time it's subliminal. Mm-hmm. And these messages bombard you over and over and over. It don't matter if it's the movie or the commercial. There's images that they're projecting that they want society to move. I call it the Oz theory. If the color for the day is green, it's green. If the color for the day is blue, it's blue. Right. But it's a message being sent. Absolutely. And it has a way of programming the way we do business. As you guys were talking about, you give the different layers of the fathers and the representation. These thoughts and these behaviors, these attitudes and approaches for these different levels are based on the messages that they receive. And what they take is truth. What's in a man is going to come out of a man. So violence don't necessarily come out in the physical aspects. Violence starts from within. Mm-hmm. So if the man is angry within or the woman is angry within, then this is what's going to come out.
That's right.
And so as you point out all these different facets, this is where I kind of deviate a little bit from the gender because it's the core of the person. Because when it's all said and done, that individual has to want to do something. You have a family of 5, and let's say 4 go to prison and 1 don't. What happened? Because the character of that individual, the constitution of that individual, is what's going to step up to the plate. Now, you have to be open and willing to receive the information that people bring you that is positive. And in many cases, that's not the case, because these messages, you talk about the Netflix, this is what drives it. It's popular. In other words, it's sin is pleasing for a season. And if it feels good, that's what most people are going to operate from.
And if you celebrate division,
yes.
If you celebrate division,
that's the message.
And you celebrate, it's how you go at. Oh, he said this and she said that, and you go on and you put your whole family and situation at stake on these shows. The anything for money theory. Right. Oh, well, you ain't got no money. You so you back. You ain't this. You got. So they reward you for 7. It's 7 of y'all, and it's 180 of them. So you reward your 7. Your 7 shuts down and influences and practice these things. You know, calling boys and men goons, and, right? But it's 180,000 of them. While you still talking about what you do to your own brother, instead of having the real true philosophy of unity starts in the family.
But there has to be a continuity of this too, because we know the men who put on the suit, go to work and look good, doesn't mean necessarily they are good. Or they're going to do things that's good. We've sat among people on the boards and they say all the right things, but when it's time for them to bring their action to the table where we work together, when you talk about a solution, working together, not as separated parts, then we don't see it. So again, we go right back. So I went from being the guy on the street talking all the stuff to now I put on a suit and I work for a Fortune 500 company, but I'm still the same man. You know, as they say, you can dress up a pig, but at the end of the day, you're still a pig. Right. So we need to bring people together on this concept of what fatherhood means, and then we have to come with meaning of definition, because my meaning of fatherhood may be different than yours. So there has to be something universal that allows us to work together.
It should be, but we need to start from understanding the value, the beginning. Right there. Here's the value. This is what I come to the table. This is what I bring. Right? Knowing your values from the beginning, from the rooter to the tutor. What is your value? Because what happens is that you wing it so long that you believe that's the extent of your value, and then you find yourself like these young boys or these older gentlemen when they get somewhere and they take their life. They wake up and realize that all I did was give. I didn't get nothing in return. And nobody really valued me, because you never knew what your value was to demand that you get the value. See, we believe that the value is you go to work, come home, put the money on the table, right? Do this for the kids, yell every now and then, spend a little time, and walk away. You ride off into the sunset. You might build a deck. Right? You might make enough money to get you a home. Right? And then when it's all said and done and you go and somebody can get up, because this is the system, I can get up today, well, you don't make me happy, and walk away with half of what you got. Because you don't come together to fight for what you really need to be fighting for. The change in the laws. The change in the process. Ain't no you just get up and walk away, right? Just because you feel like it, right? So that's what turns, that's a whole nother dynamic that turns them into abusers, right? Before you leave, turn it murder suicide. They invented a whole thing called murder suicide. I'm gonna kill everybody in the house and myself. That started in the late 90s.
No, I know.
And here it is. Before I let you go off, right? Because you're not willing to come together to fight for the change in the laws. You can change that law. You literally can change that. This the one law. That's the one law, the no-fault divorce law. That law, you literally can change that law, right? But as men, we're the architects of abuse, rape, murder. We're the designers. You're in your reaping season. And for some of us, it might be coming to an end. We're watching privilege come to an end right in front of everybody's face. You can no longer defend it. You have been outed by the biggest outer. It's coming to an end. So with that being said, God is in the character business. So us as men, as fathers, we need to understand we have to teach one another. That's what we stopped doing. Like you said, Mr. Sanders, Pop Winers, they was in their 30s. Me, I'm in my 20s. We have to teach one another. I went to learn from men how to be a father. Oh, I know I don't want to be like that. Oh yeah, I would love to be. And that's why these men is in my books, that's in my head, because when my mother and father divorced, I had men who, come here, Fat Jive. Sit down, let me talk to you. At the same time, I turn around as the man, I'm telling his son, he passed it on to me. Sonny Man poured into me, I poured into his son. That's how that's supposed to go. They poured into you, now you're pouring into some other kids. That's how this thing is supposed to go. It's not supposed to go, I'm going to use you, give you some dope, put you on the corner and put a pistol in your pocket, and when they tell you something, you got a right to shoot and kill them. Because the society, because you don't value your brother, because of where you come from. So, solution one, we have to set a standard. That's the very first thing. We have to set a standard for black fathers, for every black father and every father. Need that to be every father. There has to be a standard for the next wave of fatherhood, of having a standard for fathers and how they protect their children away from violence. Every movie, and I said this, and we can check out every movie, the movies that we call movies, ends with the star walking away after killing 100 people. If you watch a movie right now, 40 to 50 people is easily going to be killed during the movie. Mm-hmm. And the star is going to, after doing his thing, at the end, they're going to have a shootout. We're going to make him the hero, and he's going to walk away from murder. Privilege does the same thing in courts. Well, at the end of this court case, yeah, you only going to jail for 3 years after you murdered that black person, but we going to let you out. Tell the people where they can get you at, baby.
You can reach me at yourinspiredjourney.com. That's Your Inspired Journey, or you can call me direct at 313-759-7855.
Brother Dave.
You can reach me at davidfmam.com, and you can reach me by phone at 608-343-0875.
Okay. You can reach me at calvintman.com. I'm gonna say this, and we're gonna roll up out of here. All right. It's called Put Your Family First podcast for a reason, and I was a little boy in pain when my parents divorced. I carried that with me. I remember the butt whoopings and the understanding and the marks in my life that, survival is a vicious game, right? I had friends, neighbors, brothers, but in the process, we were exposed to violence. At a tumultuous time, we was exposed to gangs, and right, we used to have my family. We fight the whole block. And the whole block would be fighting, right? But it was only happening the more you saw broken homes. See, when that happened, it was us against everybody else. Right? Because we no longer had my dad, who was the protector. So that means people had access to his children. Molestation and all kind of things. My brothers and promiscuity and things that we're supposed to be protected from at a young age, we were fully exposed to. Right? Knives, guns, and weed. Fully exposed. My aunts and my cousins was able to go over there. So a balance of here and there. Paper route in the corner store, right? And I was able to get some tools and learn, singing and choir. There were some things I couldn't get away from. I don't remember my grandparents on my daddy's side coming to the door but once, but my grandfather, my grandmother on my mother's side being present. See, this is what we do to kids, right? So then in that process, I come through. My only out, I get to see my brother. My only out might be sports. So, but I was so chunky I couldn't play pal. But when I crossed over, when my mother left and pulled us into the township, we was able to go play football. It didn't matter. I was on heavyweight and I got exposed to sports in a completely different environment where I wasn't this N-word, and I didn't have to fight all the time. I think the whole time in those 6 years I was called the N-word in school possibly 2 times. Right? In the process, as soon as we was in the city, it was a norm. So you was always at each other. Right? So I'm saying, then there were other men. There was Mr. Waldick. There were men. The mayor referring to these were men who poured into me. I have no choice but to follow what I learned from them and pour back into. It is our responsibility as men, husbands, and fathers is to pour into the boy. The only way you're going to stop the violence is we're going to have to set a standard, and you're going to have to come away from so many single households. You're going to have to come away from so many players and pimps and so many multiple, but we got to come away from those environments, because those environments is feeding the system. The foster care system is eating our children in loaves, just and making tons of money and feeding, putting kids in the college, and your kid goes in the foster kid, their kid goes to college and graduate, and that be the doctor that you go see because you've been realigned. With that being said, please, whatever you do, if you're a new father, you're about to have a child, if you're dating, get married. Make sure that you and the woman that you're with protect yourself. We don't need no more kids out of wedlock. We need more families. Put your family first. Peace.